Welcome back to the Healthcare Wayfinders podcast, where we are routing you to more accessible and cost-effective healthcare. I'm your host, Zach Aten, and today's conversation is a powerful one, especially if you or someone you love is navigating diabetes. I'm joined by Jonathan Fitch, founder of GlucoSense AI, a platform designed to simplify one of the most complex parts of diabetes care, understanding and managing your blood sugar in real time. Jonathan isn't just building a technology, he's solving a problem that he personally has dealt with for over 15 years. After experiencing a serious health event, despite being considered well controlled, Jonathan set out to build something different, an AI powered companion that helps people make fewer but better decisions every day by turning overwhelming health data into simple, actionable insights. In this episode, we talk about why more data hasn't necessarily meant better outcomes in diabetes care, how GlucoSense AI brings together data from devices like continuous glucose monitors, wearables, and daily life, what it looks like to shift care from reactive to proactive, both for patients and for providers, and Jonathan's vision for the future, including fully automated insulin support systems. If you've ever wondered how technology can actually improve day-to-day life, not just track it, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Healthcare Wayfinders podcast. I'm your host, Zach Aten, and with me I have Jonathan Fitch from GlucoSense AI. He's got an amazing product, and I'm excited to have you here and hear more about it and your story behind it. So welcome, Jonathan. How you doing today?
Doing great. I appreciate you having me on.
We love having you on. I'm excited about this because it's not something that I have very much knowledge of. You've got an app, GlucoSense AI. Would you give us a little bit of background on what it does and then how it came about? What was your story on creating it?
Yeah, so GlucoSense is really a companion for people living with diabetes, typically those who are on insulin and wear a continuous glucose monitor. The idea is to help guide you with regards to your management outside of the healthcare system. At its core, helping you make fewer but better decisions each day. Personally, I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 15 years, and that's why I started down this path. What my personal journey or the reason this all started was I had a relatively unpredictable seizure during college finals. I've always had a great A1C, considered well controlled, and even I slipped through the cracks. And the idea behind GlucoSense is to take all this data that we track as people living with diabetes and do all the interpretation and processing for us. So when you open it, it has all the answers and insights ready to go. It's very low lift. It doesn't require a lot of technical knowledge and doesn't require a lot of input. It just does the work for you. And of course, there are some features where you can take pictures of your food and we'll count the carbs and help give you estimates and show you how it impacts your blood sugar. We'll be able to make findings that pizza and Mexican food have similar impacts. But the more you use it, the more you open it, the better it gets.
Very cool. So this app connects into a continuous glucose monitor. Is that something people can just set up like through your app, or how do they actually connect the data feed?
So it's pretty easy. When you download GlucoSense, you'll go through a whole sign-up flow to help personalize the experience to you. In that sign-up flow, you'll be able to link your continuous glucose monitor. So we're a full partner of Dexcom, one of very few companies to have that full partnership. And we also integrate Abbott's Freestyle Libre and then almost any wearable device you can think of. So Fitbit, Oura, Whoop, Apple Watch, Garmin, etc. You tie all that together, and then GlucoSense, based off of how you sign up and share the goals, the challenges, and obstacles in your life, will start immediately identifying where your baseline is at and helping give guidance and proactive support.
Quick question so you're integrated with these partners, and again, all these questions are coming from my own ignorance, but why do they let you integrate with their products? Do they not use like their own apps or something like that?
They do. So we bring the entire ecosystem together. So there's more than what you're looking at as somebody living with diabetes and just your immediate Dexcom blood sugar value. There are a lot of decisions that go into everything that we do, whether it's working out, eating a bite of food, going out with friends, having a few drinks. And it really needs a central hub for it all to exist. So we work very closely with the team at Dexcom and collaborate, and they're great partners of ours. From a commercial business standpoint, our primary customer are health plans so that they can provide better care delivery to their members. We view Dexcom as a partner in that relationship and champion them in all of the deals that we do. So it's really meant to be collaborative over competition.
Cool. Cool. The idea here is about increasing quality of life, like from the patient's perspective or the person using this, the healthcare consumer. And again, my own experience here is lacking, but this helps just give a better all health experience, helps people understand like how their body's responding to these different inputs, whether it's food or exercise or rest or sleep, that type of thing.
Yeah, so in my undergrad at Georgia Tech, we developed something called the glucose score. It's a new way to interpret blood sugar data, and it also serves as a foundational layer to how our AI works, how we're able to empathize and understand where individuals are at. A very common point of feedback that we get for glucose sense is that it's like the aura readiness score or the aura experience, but for your diabetes management. It's there to give you the context so you don't have to sit there and try to figure it all out on your own. There might be areas that you need to engage with GlucoSense to really share more context so that it can give you a more holistic understanding of what's going on. But it's really there to operate in the background and give you closure and guidance.
Okay. What's the value from like a provider's perspective? So like my wife is a nurse practitioner at an endocrinology practice. She serves folks with diabetes like all day long. She prescribes these continuous glucose monitors. What about their experience? How does this help them or help their patients?
Yeah, so I guess for the audience that wears continuous glucose monitors and is more familiar with this space, what these endocrinologists and physicians in the space see is something called a Dexcom Clarity Report. And it's an overwhelming amount of granular data. So typically, you'll go into your session, the doctor will be flipping through these reports, and it's a whole stack of paper. You're like, 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday, you had this big blood sugar spike. What happened here? You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably ate something and forgot a bolus, or maybe I had an issue with my pump. And okay, you need to be better about bolusing on time. And it's these anecdotal conversations that are had, and you end up leaving the provider. And most patients have great experiences with their providers and endos. But what we've heard as a common point of feedback is a lot of times patients are there primarily to get their prescriptions refilled. But what we've found is people living with diabetes are managing their diabetes outside the healthcare system, which isn't a big shocker. It's you're thinking about your carbs, your exercise, how much insulin you're taking all day, every day. So the opportunity to support patients and really even providers is when the patient doesn't have the opportunity to be sitting next to a provider and asking them all the questions, because providers don't have the bandwidth for that, and it's not a scalable form of care delivery. So GlucoSense is designed to augment that care outside of the practice. And then also for providers, rather than having that 40-page Dexcom Clarity Report, we have a single-page PDF that walks providers through the unique challenges that you're facing so that the conversations you have are on a level playing field. They're actually the challenges you're experiencing. So when I tried a new form of insulin pump, my time in range went up, but I was burning out. Wasn't visible in the data because the data said I was doing better. But what GlucoSense was able to say is, I'm having severe nocturnal hypoglycemic events followed by rebound hyperglycemic events. Now that's provider lingo, but what that means is I'm having overnight lows at different hours of the nights. I'm overeating in the middle of the night because I'm asleep and waking up to correct my blood sugar. So I just put some food down, then my blood sugar skyrockets. And then the next day my blood sugar ends up all over the place. That's what GlucoSense has the ability to cut through the noise on and allow the provider to work with the patients on the true challenges they're having, rather than trying to find the one-off incidents in a very overwhelming sea of data that they see today.
No, that's really cool, because that's a complaint that I hear from my wife literally probably once a week. We have all this data. How is it actually helping us help the patient have a better life experience, a better health experience? And
Exactly.
yeah, they're not, no, who remembers what we ate 2 weeks ago at
Let
this
alone
time?
3 days ago.
Yeah,
It's not realistic. So we hope to fill that gap. And that's where we've seen a lot of success.
that's awesome. So you said that you primarily, your distribution is primarily through like health plans. I'm assuming somebody could still just go on the App Store and download your app and use it. How would somebody who's maybe getting it through their plan versus they just see this podcast and I'm like, I want to go download this and start using it. How would they access it?
So today, GlucoSense exists as a free offering. So go to App Store or the Google Play Store. GlucoSense is available to download, and you link your devices. All your data is private, and you're good to go. We raised our initial funding to build the perfect diabetes experience, and we're certainly very close to there. And there's always room for improvements and new features, and we constantly get new requests. But the commercial business model is furthering our partnership with health plans. So at some point in the future, the sign up flow will be more reflective of that. But today, there's no barriers for anybody to get started with the GlucoSense experience.
That's awesome. So somebody can just get on there, download the app, and start integrating it with their continuous glucose monitoring device, and then start benefiting from all of the help that GlucoSense provides. I'll definitely put links to all of that in the show notes so that people have easy access to do that.
And for providers, we can sign up healthcare systems, independent practices, relatively easily. What we've seen with GlucoSense is the most effective way to reach more people is this grassroots effort by people living with diabetes who use GlucoSense every day or multiple times a week. They show up to their providers and go, hey, this has been super helpful. And the provider goes, what's this? And then they reach out to us, and then we get the practice onboarded. And that's a
That's
great way to spread the message.
cool. So, do providers work with you directly, or is it more of they just make people aware of this tool that they can use with their continuous glucose monitoring device?
It's a mix, but I will say it's in the best interest of the providers to get involved with us as well, because then the patient has the ability to share their data back to the provider, which gives those
Okay,
comprehensive reports on that example of nocturnal hypoglycemia followed by rebound, and helping providers and patients have more effective time together.
that's great. That's great. How does somebody know that they're doing well with the app? What are the, if I'm using this, is it primarily a I feel better and have a more consistent feel good life experience? How do they measure like the quality of their life, the quality of their health experience? If I start using this today and I'm using it in 3 months, am I going to feel better? Am I going to, what's the, how do people know that they're doing better?
Yeah, so there's a few ways to indicate it. I personally don't think A1C is the best indicator of the quality of your life, as I had a seizure in college at a 6 A1C. There's a lot of variables that go into diabetes management. What's usually used today is A1C and a metric called time and range. Of course, continue to use those. But what's unique with GlucoSense is when you sign up, you get that glucose score number. It's not a grade. What it does do is it serves to say, this is where you're at. So if you sign up and you're at a 4, the goal is to get to a 5. And we'll give you little bits of education to help you get to a 5. Once you are getting 5s every day, we'll work with you to get to a 6 and 6 to a 7. And when you're 7 and above, you're meeting and exceeding all standard management guidelines. But you should feel encouraged and empowered to manage by leveraging some of the small suggestions we give to help slowly dial in your life and make it more intuitive to manage. Like I said at the beginning, our mission is to help you make fewer but better decisions each day. As that really starts to take place, you should feel like diabetes is less of a burden on your day-to-day life.
Cool. That's great. So for your health plans, how do they know that it's benefiting their population? How do they measure that?
So they really like to stick to what's the A1C outcome data, but then there's other metrics we track. So the frequency of acute episodes, so somebody ending up in an extreme hypoglycemic event leading to the ED or a DKA incident, and then look at the volatility of blood sugars. Of course, with the health plans, we do want to see a reduction in cost if we're deployed across a large population level. Just people are living healthier, so thus they should cost a little bit less to the health plans. But ultimately, there's one other layer. Health plans are overburdened with many diseases, many chronic conditions that they're having to manage. They typically use care managers to provide ancillary care to make sure you navigate the system effectively. Where we're seeing an area of opportunity for GlucoSense is better triaging data to care managers so that they can be more proactive in their outreach. Are your PAs getting approved? Are you on your medicine? Do you have enough medicine? Do you seem burnt out based off of the data we have? Can they be more proactive in their outreach rather than calling you retrospectively after you have an acute episode post discharge from the ED, because the high cost incident has already happened? So for health plans, it's enabling them to be more proactive and supportive to their members, because no matter what's said about the health plans out there, nobody really wants to pay for you to show up to the emergency room. So it's in everybody's interest to get ahead of that and get you the medicines you need and make sure you're living a sustainable day to day with the tools you need to do that.
Is this something that can be used by somebody with either type 1 or type 2 diabetes?
Yes. So if you wear a continuous glucose monitor, when you sign up, you'll be able to choose from type 1, type 2 on insulin, type 2 on GLP-1, and pre-diabetic or non-diabetic. For the non-diabetic, I believe we have to give you a share code. It's not the population we typically focus on, but we support anybody who has that flow of data.
Okay, cool. So even if I don't have a continuous glucose monitor, but I want to live a healthier life, I've got maybe type 2, and I'm doing my best to manage my diabetes, I can still get a lot of value with using GlucoSense AI.
That is a few months out. So there is that development
Okay.
in the pipeline. Today, you do need a continuous glucose monitor to get value.
Okay, cool. That leads into my next question of like, where are you wanting to go with this? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal around what GlucoSense could do to help folks with diabetes?
As we have an internal, there's several ways to answer this, but I'll take the most exciting approach. So we have a project internally that we call Project Rios, and it's a full AID. What that means is automated insulin delivery system that's dosing insulin. Now, I am the only person on this technology. It is based off of all the IP we have at GlucoSense, the food logging, the chat that's coming, which is already operational in Rios, all this foundational logic we had to build. And I'm getting 90 to 100% time in range with almost no effort. You don't need to count carbs. You don't need to be technical. I will say something like, I'm going out to dinner, having Mexican food, having a bunch of chips, probably eating quite a bit of food. It can take that and make sure that my blood sugar does not go high and I have relatively stable blood sugars for the next 8 to 12 hours post meal, as Mexican food is one of the most challenging things to manage with diabetes. That is the experience we want everybody with diabetes to be able to have. And we're continuing to work and develop with our industry partners to make sure that technology can find its way to market. Now, we aren't going to become an insulin pump manufacturer, but we do hope that our technology will be able to live through other devices that currently operate on the market. And there is a separate regulatory pathway that we are going through to ultimately reach these goals.
Very cool. That sounds like an awesome future for everybody that I know that has diabetes.
Life, it's incredible.
Yeah. Now, you're a fellow Georgia Tech grad, right?
Yes.
You and
Our
your
whole
co-founder?
team is Georgia Tech. Yes. Very loyal
Go
to
Jackets.
the university. Go Jackets.
That's great. How long have you got? Did you say you started developing this in school, or your experience in school helped start the process?
A bit of both. This started really through my last year of college after I had that event. I had another company at the time, wasn't super passionate about it, but I grew it to a meaningful size. I was able to exit that company and then go full time on GlucoSense. And then Georgia Tech had this program called CreateX, which is a startup accelerator. And then we've just continued from there.
That's awesome. And now you guys are part of the Advanced Technology Development Center at Georgia Tech.
Yes, we are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Jonathan, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you'd want to talk about before we sign off?
If anybody's interested really in getting involved or learning more about the story or the mission and can support it in any way, we always welcome that.
That's great. That's great. Jonathan, it's been great having you on, man. Super pumped about the great work that y'all are doing.
Thanks, Zach. I really appreciate it.